What's up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today, with a big game coming up tomorrow on Saturday to wrap up the regular season, we have Brandon Simberg of the Daily Illini to help us learn more about this Illinois team that just put a hurting on the Wolverines just a couple days ago. Brandon, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jay. You know, it's March. It's the best time of the year, and we've got a top 10 Big Ten matchup coming up this weekend. So I cannot complain. I'm really looking forward to that game.
I am as well. I'm sure Buckeye fans are looking to get back on the right track, on the winning side of some of these games that they're playing. And a lot of them are probably wondering, just like I am, what is the status of Ayo Dosunmu?
So Dosunmu was close to returning against Michigan, but the team doctors did not clear him for that game. After the game, it was the first time Brad Underwood said that he was in the concussion protocol, so that was a little more than a broken nose. As of right now, I mean, I know that he wants to play. I know Illinois wants to get him back out there, but I think he's going to be a game-time decision again. You know, he's going to have to pass some game day concussion test or whatever that protocol may be to get back on the court. So I think he's a true game day decision. Today's Thursday, and all we've heard is that game time decision. He might play, he might not. So, you know, that's going to come down to a few hours before the game.
Little gamesmanship, little. I don't want to tip my hand or say that the best player on our team will or will not play. Prepare to play with him. Prepare to play without him on the court. And I think with Illinois, he is the guy that, let's say that if this is a close game, he is their closer, and we've seen him before this year. In crunch time, when the Illinois needs a basket, he is their go-to guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if there's a better closer in the entire sport of college basketball than Ayo Dosunmu. So he's had plenty of big moments, like you said, and I feel like Saturday's game is going to be close. Last game of the regular season, you know, these two teams, they match up pretty similarly. So if it's gonna be a close game, which I think it's going to be, you know, Illinois is going to want Ayo on that court.
If he does come back, let's just say that game time decision does allow him to play the basketball on Saturday, the final regular Big Ten season game before the big start of the conference tournament. What do you think he'll be at, 60%, 70%? I know it's a head concussion, not so much lower body and legs. Cardio may be okay, but with the concussion, you just don't know how you're going to come back from that type of injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Ayo's a tough kid. He's a competitor. He's from Chicago, and Chicago breeds tough dudes. So I think if Ayo is going to step back out on that court, I don't think we're going to see some watered-down version. I think he's going to be at his peak. And, you know, like I said, he steps up in big games and big moments. And so I think if Ayo does play, he's going to want to go out there and put on a big performance. So I would expect him to play well if he does return.
Okay. Speaking of playing well, and I went back and watched some tape and some just quick highlights of the Michigan game. That game was impressive, not just on the offensive end of the court, but I'm a big guy on defense, defensive rotations. How are you on ball defense when it's just you and the guy, you and your man, and you're in between? You're like the halfway point in between the 3-point line and half court. How are you out there in space? And the defense of Illinois showed up in a huge way against Michigan. And I know I didn't expect it. I'm sure maybe you didn't expect it. You've been watching games all year. And the Wolverines had no answer for what the Illini did to them just a few days ago.
Yeah, I was blown away with how well Illinois played defensively. You know, Michigan likes to run a lot of ball screen actions and things of that nature. And Illinois' bigs and guards just did a great job disrupting them, not letting them use the screens. Trent Frazier is probably their best perimeter on-ball defender, and he made things really tough for Mike Smith. You know, Mike Smith leads the Big Ten in assists, and he didn't have one single assist on Tuesday night. And then you look at the job that Kofi Coburn did on Hunter Dickinson down low, holding him to 1 of 8 shooting. And then even, you know, on the perimeter as well, DeMonte Williams, who's Illinois' kind of versatile glue guy defender in a way, he was matched up with the much taller Franz Wagner, and he shot him down. Wagner went just 1 for 9. So Michigan was out of sync offensively, and that was really the best defensive performance we've seen from Illinois this season.
Do you think that they're up to the challenge in doing that in another game against Ohio State, who has a very efficient offense of their own?
We'll see. Illinois has had problems this year stringing together multiple good games. You know, even during their 7-game win streak, they were taken to the wire by Nebraska and Northwestern, who, as you know, are not, they're not elite opponents by any means. So Illinois has had trouble stringing together consistency for 2 straight games. And the one thing that Ohio State presents is E.J. Liddell. And as you know, he's from Illinois, had the Illini in his final 3, and he's just been a killer against them in his short 2-year career. He had 26 in the first matchup, and he's tough because he can post up Illinois' smaller defenders at the 4, and then if they want to throw a bigger guy on him, he can stretch you out and take you to the perimeter. So Illinois needs to bring that defensive intensity against Ohio State, and especially against Liddell, because he is a matchup problem and he is an Illini killer.
Illini killer. I know the first broadcast when I was watching the game, I heard over and over and over. He was a 2-time Mr. Basketball in the state of Illinois, didn't go to Illinois. And I'm like, okay, great. These are great storylines. But he produced, and he had a huge game. I forgot how lethal he was as far as how many points he scored in that matchup. And you mentioned a good point. As far as Kofi Cockburn, if he does guard E.J. Liddell, it's a mismatch. If he's guarding Kyle Young, well, whoever's guarding Liddell, Liddell's probably going to have he may not have the height advantage, but he'll have the size and the mass advantage. And the size in the mass of Michigan, that was not really something that was really hindering. Well, Kofi Cockburn and Hunter Dickinson, they kind of cancel each other out, even though Kofi Cockburn is the bigger guy. But even Michigan's size, they do have decent size there. Illinois did a decent job against them, forcing Michigan to consistently chase and play from behind. I know I said another do you, but do you think that there will be a time that Illinois could get a double-digit lead based off of how defensively, even though this is a decent matchup, defensively they could kind of slow down a Buckeyes offense that has been struggling at times lately?
Yeah, 100%. If Illinois plays like they did defensively against Ohio State, doesn't let them get into their actions, doesn't allow clean looks for Arns and Dwayne Washington, then Illinois could definitely get an early lead. I think Ohio State's downfall is defensively they're not maybe as strong as a typical Chris Holtmann team. So if Illinois is consistently getting, holding Ohio State to 1 to 2 minute scoring droughts here and there, that could be pretty problematic for the Buckeyes.
Andre Cabello, I know that when I was watching the game, and I know Jay Billison, I think it was Dan Schulman, had the call of that game against Michigan, they went over and over and over, ranting and raving at Cabello during the game and how he stepped up his play. Not someone that's normally known for the scoring that he had against Michigan. He did step up and said, hey, well, look, my team needs me to step up. My team needs an extra body, somebody else to score, another leader, and he stepped up in a huge way in that matchup. Now, the thing about Ohio State, you have C.J. Walker. If he starts, if Cabello's in the starting lineup, that's going to be a nightmare because C.J. Walker is very, very smart. If he comes off the bench, maybe a little bit different because the backups of Ohio State might not be mentally ready and able to combat what Cabello is going to throw at them. Were you surprised by his play? Sorry about that. No, were you surprised by his play a couple days ago?
Not really. I've been pretty high on Cabello. I've been a big fan of his since high school when he actually played with Zed Key in Long Island. But I think with DeSumo out, Cabello has taken on more of a scoring role. He's a pass-first guy. He's a fantastic passer. But the Big Ten, there's a lot of really good coaches. And so coaches have picked up on the fact that he likes to pass and get other guys involved first. So they've tried to take that away from him, resulting in him becoming a scorer now, which he has. He has double digits in the last 4 games, 3 of which are without DeSumo. He's really crafty. He does a good job of getting to the rim. So I'm not totally surprised that Cabello was able to step up like that on the big stage. This is a guy that played in a few ESPN games in high school, played against big opponents, played on a really good high school team in New York. So Cabello is not scared of the big moment, and I don't think he will be on Saturday. Now, the Buckeyes did do a really good job against him in the first game, limiting him to just 2 points. Yeah, he had 2 points on 1 of 3 shooting and played 12 minutes. So they definitely did a good job against him the first time, but I think Cabello's gotten a little better since that first matchup.
Kofi Cockburn against Hunter Dickinson. What did he do against Hunter that allowed forced Dickinson to struggle as much as he did?
There's just not many guys who have Hunter Dickinson's size in the Big Ten. Kofi is the one dude who is just as big as Dickinson, and I think Kofi did a good job eliminating Dickinson's left hand. He's a lefty, and that's typically where he goes. He eliminated his left hand. He stayed body to body with him. He walled him up. He got into a little bit of foul trouble, but he made Dickinson really work for every basket. There were no easy looks. And I think it wasn't just Kofi. I think Michigan's help defenders did a good job. When Dickinson put the ball on the floor, they pinched in and helped out. And it was a team effort, but Kofi's size and his ability to stay grounded, I think, really threw Dickinson off his game.
One of the most exciting things that I've noticed when watching not just college basketball, but also college football this year with Alpha Fames being there is the juice and the energy that the bench brings. I remember college football, it was easy. You could see it every single week. And also in college basketball, in numerous times after a Trent Frazier three or Cabello gets a layup, the bench was going crazy. And I'm sitting here watching it. I'm like, hey, this is my kind of game, like open gym style. Your boys over here cheering you on, getting you hyped, getting you excited, keeping your energy levels up after you score. Don't let your guard down because you got to get back on defense because Michigan's not going to slow down and not just going to lay down and let you destroy them. That energy and that juice that they brought, the bench did, is that something that they have every single game?
So I think that they actually embrace this more when they're on the road.
Okay.
They've had this kind of mantra about them, even dating back to last year. They always say roadkill. They love to go into opposing teams' gym and just beat them on their home floor. And I think, like you said, in that Michigan game, they had all the energy, they had all the noise, and so they're going to need to do that again against Ohio State, who I actually, when they came to Champaign, I really enjoyed their team's bench energy.
Yeah.
Those guys got into it. Those guys seemed to be having fun. And I think their energy in that game was a huge reason they were able to beat Illinois at the time. So I think that bench energy component is going to be a huge part of the game on Saturday. And I think Illinois will bring their bench energy as they typically do on the road, but I expect Ohio State to have theirs as well.
What are 2 or 3 details in Saturday's matchup that you're looking forward to watching? Kind of the nerd notes you may want to say between this matchup against Ohio State and Illinois.
So I think the first thing from the Illinois side is how do they utilize Kofi Cockburn better? Because he had 15 points in the first matchup, which is below his season average, and he made every shot. He was 7 for 7 from the field. So how can they get him the ball more? How can they get him more involved? How can they create easier looks for him? Because I like Ohio State's bigs. I like Kyle Young. I like EJ Liddell. I like Zed Key off the bench, but they're just not nearly as big or as strong as Cockburn. So, and that's Illinois' biggest advantage. So I think the first thing is, how does Illinois get Cockburn the ball? The second thing is which Illinois team shows up. I talked about this earlier about how Illinois has a tendency to look amazing against Michigan, but then maybe look weaker against Nebraska. And you saw that in that first matchup. The Buckeyes got out to a 15-point lead, and it looked like the game was over, and Illinois made it a game kind of at the end. So can Illinois sustain a high-level play for 40 minutes against the Buckeyes? And then the third thing is running them off the three-point line. As you know, Ohio State is a really good three-point shooting team, and they hit 11 threes in that first matchup and scored 87 points. So if you're Illinois, you can't let that happen. You can't let Arns even get 5 threes up. You can't let Liddell go 4 for 7. You got to run these guys off the line and make sure Ohio State doesn't get clean looks from 3. So I'd say those are the 3 things that I'm looking for on Saturday.
We've mentioned briefly, or some at length, Kofi Cockburn, Andre Cabello. I mentioned vaguely Trent Frazier, Ayo Dosunmu. Who else from Illinois in this matchup could possibly have a game like Cabello just did, where he played better than expected, and it was enough that was needed for his team to win? Who could be like the kind of next guy up, maybe a couple guys that you could see maybe emerging to help Illinois in this matchup?
So freshman Adam Miller, their starting shooting guard, has been pretty hit or miss this season. He's shooting 34% from 3, which isn't great, but at times he's had big games. And the first time these two teams played, the lefty went off for 14 points and hit a few threes. So he's a guy that if he gets hot, he can kind of swing games for Illinois. The other guy who I think is going to be an impact player is Jacob Grandison. He's a transfer forward from Holy Cross who was substituted into the starting lineup after they lost the Ohio State game. So his minutes have gone up since then. And he's another guy that can stretch the floor at the 4 position. He's a little bit taller than DeMonte Williams, so he gives them a little more size and length. And if one or both of those guys are shooting well and hitting their shots, that makes Illinois a little harder to beat. So I'd say those are kind of the 2 X-factor swing guys that could be that 3rd or 4th guy on the right night.
I'm curious what you think about Dwayne Washington Jr. One of those guys, he had 30 against the Wolverines in a loss. Sometimes he doesn't really do much at all. He likes all the shots on the court. Some they're bad shots, he still takes them. Some they're good shots, he takes them. Some good shots, he passes up for a better shot for his teammate. Dwayne Washington Jr. in a game when he knows, his team knows, to get better seeding in the Big Ten Conference Tournament, you have to win this game. The play of, I call him Junior. I like nicknames. The play of Junior, I think he's actually going to play one of his better games on Saturday because he knows what's at stake with a Buckeye win or Buckeye loss.
100%. Well, I'm actually rocking a Sierra Canyon sweatshirt right now, which is where he played basketball senior year. So yeah, I've been a fan of Dwayne since high school. I got to see him play at UIBL, and like I said with Io, Dwayne is a big game player. Even though they lost, he still had 30 against Michigan. He's had some big performances this year when the team needs it. He's kind of a streaky shooter, but that's a really scary guy. If you're an Illinois fan, I'd be terrified of him because he can go off and single-handedly win you games. I thought Illinois did a pretty good job against him the first game. They held him to 11 points on 3 of 10 shooting. And like I said, Trent Frazier is a good perimeter defender and is good at kind of disrupting guys from their rhythm. But I think that on Saturday in Columbus, last game of the year, like you said, seeding implications on the line, Big Ten tournament seedings on the line. I think that Dwayne Washington, he's going to step up and hit some shots for sure. I'm expecting a big Dwayne Washington game on Saturday.
I am right there with you. I've been critical of his play all year, but he has stepped up in big ways when the Buckeyes have needed him to. Brandon, this has been fun. What are your last comments or thoughts about the game, Ohio State versus Illinois on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting another close game like the first game was. I think whether Dosunmu plays or not is obviously going to be a key factor, but Illinois has looked good without him. I mean, they've somehow beat Michigan by 23. But I think it's like I said, it's a key game for both teams. I'm expecting a close one. I like the 4 p.m. time slot. I think it'll give good national viewings to these two teams that I think are Final Four contenders and can make a run. So I'm expecting a high quality game on Saturday.
I am as well. Brandon Simberg, if you could very quickly, let the people know where they can connect with you on social media and then also where they can read some of your work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter at Brandon Simberg, Simberg spelled Simberg. I watch all the Big Ten games. I love going back and forth with fans on Twitter and interacting. So, never be afraid to hit me up. And then I write for the Daily Illini, the student newspaper at the University of Illinois. That's dailyillini.com. I will be in Columbus on Saturday for the game, so I'll have a post-game story as well as a preview.
Nice. Do you do any broadcasting of games or just covering them?
I'm just writing. I just do writing stuff.
Gotcha. Brandon Simberg, thank you so much. Those of you that are watching on YouTube via WKYC, you can see his Twitter handle right under his picture. You guys can always follow me on Twitter at JStevens07. Big game on Saturday. I'm excited. Brandon's excited. I hope you are excited as well. We will recap Saturday's matchup early on Monday morning.